Turtle Beast Stealth Ultra, worth your time and money? Let's find out. Hey everyone, it's the Photo Techie. I hope you're all doing well. Today's video is on the Turtle Beast Stealth Ultra, the first ever licensed wireless Xbox controller with Hall effect sticks. And yes, you can turn on the console wirelessly, providing the USB dongle is plugged in. Priced at $179.99 here in UK, we get a very premium carrying case, braided USB-A to USB-C cable, a charging dock, 4 generic thumbstick caps, and a wireless dongle. Weighs 252 grams of my scales. The material they've used feels premium. The paint, especially the matte feeling paint, feels really nice to touch. We have some rubber inserts on the grips. I wish they were a bit more grip here, but at least, they do provide with some grip. Unfortunately, we have no grippy materials inside. It's just a matte paint they've used. Holding the controller, this is Turtle Beach's signature design. Recon feels very much like this. These has chunkier grips, a bit more bigger than the standard series controller. I actually really like the feel of this controller in hand. Same thing as the Recon. It's one of my favorite ones to hold. So I think in terms of comfort, the controller is definitely really good. I think for the price, maybe we could have had a bit more grip, some more materials inside. Other than that, I don't have any complaints. I think this feels really nice in hand. So this is just a quick overview of the controller. We have this multifunction button that when we press, it gives us the option to use the face buttons and go into the settings. So A is for your socials. If the phone is not connected, then it won't do anything. But if you press Y, it will bring you into the menu. We have things like connect. You can, if you have a wireless dongle connected, you can actually go in there and activate it, and it will try and connect to that. And of course, we have the smart devices. So here you can connect it to Bluetooth devices. I haven't used that yet. But the main features that it gives us are basically your profile. So you can have different profiles made, and you can basically change them on the fly. And if you basically select it, now that's the profile that it will be using. And then we have this buttons option. To change the button mapping, you literally just go in there, you select the button you want it, and you don't have to press anything, you have to press out of it. So at first I was like pressing A all the time. I was like, do I have to select it? No, you just literally press out B and you come out. Currently, we don't have the option to bind the thumbstick presses to the back buttons yet. But I have had a comment from somebody saying that it's coming in a firmware update. And the way they've named them, so it's P1, so it's going this direction, but the actual buttons are the other way. So P1 is here, 2, 3, 4. But on the screen, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So you sort of have to tell yourself every time you're setting it up, like, oh, it's the other way around. And then we have these axis mapping, which basically you can go into the left stick. You can decide what sort of response curve you want. I think at the moment these are bugged. So the fast one is doing precision and the precision is doing fast. That's just how I feel. I use the standard and I think standard sort of works the best. And then when you come out, you have the option for dead zones. I would highly recommend you completely disable them because even when you disable them, there are some hardware level dead zones. So you can literally just go in, decide, whatever dead zones you needed, just press that one and just come out of it. And then we have things like the dead zones for the triggers. I just kept them 0. The triggers work perfectly and there wasn't a problem. Vibration, again, you can try it and it basically vibrates whilst you're doing it, so you know exactly what sort of level you have. Lighting is another one. You can decide colors and many different things. App link is where you can have an app linked to the controller, basically from your Android iOS device, but you can't change anything that's on the controller. You have to make a profile on the app and then sync it to the controller. But the app does give you the ability to switch profiles on the fly. Because if you're playing a game, and so right now I'm basically using the controller on, let's say on the PC or whatever. If I press this button, now no input is going on. And then to change the profile, it takes a little bit of a time to change the actual profile. Because if you go press it, you can use the bumpers to change your profiles once you are in that mode. So it's like it, and also, so you have to be out on the main screen. And then if I press the bumper, it will change so it's going to shoot 3. And then I will go to shoot 2. And you see it takes a little bit of time and then you have to come out of it. So app does have one advantage that you can do that. But to be honest, for me, the main things that I wanted to use were the button mapping and the axis mapping, and they are quite easy to use on the screen, or if you are using onto the app, you have to actually make a separate profile and then sync to the controller. Okay, going to do the Xinput test, and you will see this is 250 Hz, 4 millisecond response time, which is a standard for the third-party controllers, and the outliers are just 7 milliseconds and stuff. Yeah, 250 Hz, less than 4 milliseconds, and we will check the wireless one now quickly. All right, now I'm connected wirelessly with the dongle or with my laptop. I'm going to do the Xinput test again, and you will see that this will try and do that 250 Hz again wirelessly as well. So it's a good wireless connection, under 4 milliseconds again, little bit higher, not 3.7 or 3.6 what it was, it's 3.9. But I tried playing wirelessly on my Series X, and I think the way my screen setup is, the input lag I have, the wireless just doesn't work for me personally. That's with the Elite Series 2 as well. I much prefer playing wired. And I played a couple of games wirelessly, and yeah, performance is decent, is good. But like I said, I think when given a choice, I much prefer wired gaming. Now, when it comes to overclocking, I tried overclocking this wirelessly and wired, and there were no, gains in Xinput. It does take the overclock to 500 Hertz that I was trying, but the Xinput time stays to 4 milliseconds, so polling rate locked on PC. The ABXY buttons are using micro switches, those mouse click-like presses, and finally we have a third-party controller which is using the lettering inside the shell, so not printed on top. Pressing them feels really good, and if you are somebody who used to play Claw, I think you will really like these buttons because they are pretty much in the standard place, just like a standard series controller. But not much wobble. I really like using these buttons, so I think this is definitely a premium experience. The D-pad again is using micro switches. Now I don't play any fighting games, I'm only playing Call of Duty, and these worked perfectly for me. I have a habit of using my right thumb, especially on Xbox controllers, to use the D-pad whilst I'm running in the game or something, and it never had any false actuations, nothing, so felt really premium. The other face buttons are your normal tag switches. So I think when it comes to the face buttons, definitely a very premium experience on this controller. Triggers are a little bit different, sloping sides and curved on the corners, so no sharp edges or anything. The material they've used, the paint, is matte, and then we have some texture as well. Feels very nice. We have one stage trigger stop that cuts out about, I would say about 90% of the trigger pull and sort of makes them insert triggers. It auto adjusts maximum dead zones as well, so it's not something that you have to go and change an app or whatever. But using these triggers, I have to say, yeah, I really like using these triggers. Quick pressing for single fire weapons was not a problem. And the trigger stops, in my opinion, yeah, they've done a really, really good job with trigger stops. And the resistance the trigger have, so if you are resting your fingers on them, I've never had any accidental actuation, even though I kept the minimum dead zones in app on the controller itself like to 0, because usually they have 5. So yeah, they've absolutely worked perfectly for me. I honestly do really like these triggers. Well done, Turtle Beach, especially the fact that, auto adjust maximum dead zones. You don't have to mess around with any settings. Yeah, very, very good. Bumpers again have the same sort of texture as the triggers, and the paint they've used is the matte feeling one, feels really good, and these are using those mouse click presses as well. You can press them from anywhere, and yeah, they do feel very nice. They so easy to press, and luckily I didn't have it, because the way I was holding the controller, I didn't have any accidental actuation whatsoever, but I was worried that what if, like, I'm pressing it accidentally. Never happened. And whilst gaming in hectic situation, when I wanted to use them simultaneously, I got exactly when I wanted to basically actuate both of them. No accidental actuations or no mistimed actuations of them. So it worked really well, especially they are very responsive because of the mouse click. So throwing back grenades worked perfectly, and putting down field worked absolutely perfectly for me. I think, yeah, bumpers and triggers, definitely a very, very premium experience on this controller. So we have 4 back buttons, and the way they've designed is your basically middle finger either pressing the outward ones in the grip or the ones in the middle shell, and they do work really well. The mouse click, the resistance needed is a bit less, but to be honest, the way the controller is designed, how you're gripping it, I didn't have any false actuations. I actually really liked using these back buttons. If I wanted to swap out a weapon, you miss a sniping shot, you swap out a weapon, yeah, it happened exactly when I wanted it to happen. If you are sliding and, evading enemy fire or whatever, it worked so well. I do think, like, yeah, they work, honestly, especially in hectic situation, they work really, really good. Jumping whilst shooting, not a problem. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have the thumbstick presses mappable to the back buttons. I think that I've got a comment from somebody saying that will be coming in a firmware update. I think that's a must for me personally, because I do keep the left thumbstick pressed to one of my back buttons when it's a 4 back button controller. So I do miss that. Hopefully that will be available at some point, and if they don't do that, to me that will be a deal breaker. But in terms of usability, yeah, I did really like using these back buttons. I think they work perfectly. Now, personally, I'm having a little bit issue with the timing because they are so easy to press when you do press them. That at times it has happened to me that I wanted to slide and jump, but I ended up actually doing jump and then a slide. But I think it's just a me problem. It's not the controller that's doing anything, because if I really pay attention and do it, it doesn't happen. So it's just me just pressing them incorrectly. But I think if you are looking for a full back button design like controller, this is definitely like one of really good ones. I really, really enjoyed using these back buttons. The physical thumbstick caps are very small and not grippy at all, but they are giving us 4 generic thumb caps in the box. I didn't like the feel of those thumb caps because I use Control Freaks, and if you want to use Control Freaks, you will need the Xbox ones. Now, they are a bit loose because they will rotate, but whilst gaming, it never happened that it came off. So it's actually a really good experience. Now, I'm somebody who likes to use the tip of the thumb. I don't use them like this. That's why I actually love Control Freaks. The way the controller is designed and these sticks, the position, so I was actually easily able to use the tall Galaxies, and this was the best experience for me. And then on the left side, I was using the Skull & Co thumb grip. So I'm not complaining that they don't have any removable ones. I think, yeah, it's a good experience. I do have one issue though. My right stick is fine when it's gliding with the anti-friction ring, but my left stick is very rough and actually has basically dug into the stick a little bit, the shaft. I don't know what that is. I've tried cleaning it and stuff, but yeah, it's very, very, especially when I'm using it in game, it's leaving a lot of residue around the shaft after like the session. So I'm a little bit worried. I don't want to break it or something. But yeah, that's something that I've noticed. I can't see anything visually sharp or anything like that. It's just like the material is a bit strange for me. It could be me because I do, using it very harshly and stuff, and maybe I used it with so much force that it made that little groove initially, and then now it's just getting worse and worse. So that's one thing that's happening to my controller. But the right one is absolutely fine. Actually glides very, very smoothly. So when it comes to thumb caps, yeah, I'm glad that I can use Control Freaks, and I'm not complaining that they don't have the replaceable caps, but I wish they'd used the metal shaft instead of this plastic one, because I am a little bit worried of this thing sort of getting worse. Let's talk about the thumbstick's aiming performance. So you can see a very good center position, but that's due to we have some base level dead zones. So in this profile, I've had the dead zones completely disabled. But if I swap the sticks a little bit, we have like, I would say about 2-3% dead zones. Initially, it felt a little bit strange to me because the sticks were a lot firmer than this. Now they've lost some tension because I've had 15 hours of game time on it. Now they are okay, but out of the box, they did feel a little bit strange that, oh, why do they have forced dead zones? But luckily they are minimal. I would say about 2-3%. Now, one strange thing they have is they have axial dead zones. So if I go out, you see it will snap in place. Now, some people don't like this. To me, it didn't matter that much. But yeah, they do have them, although these are very small axial dead zones, because I have controllers like the ROG Valkyrie and the Nikon Revolution X. They have much bigger axial dead zones than this one. But if I do the circularity test, you will see that they've gone with that basically circular output. But one good thing Turtle Beach is doing here, we have those maximum values. When we reach them, we have a little bit of a leeway. Even though we have axial dead zones, and if it snaps into the axis and we press, it's not going to come out of it, but we still have a bit of a leeway for the maximum value. So some games can use that. Even in Call of Duty, if you dive and if you're prone and you want to push the stick forward and you run, if you have a complete circle and you come out of that maximum value and you press it, the character doesn't run. So yeah, it does come in handy. Also, the way these are calibrated, we reach the maximum values way before the physical thumbstick gate. So they do feel very snappy to me. That's same with the diagonals as well. So we reach the maximum values just before we hit the actual thumbstick gate. That's just how they're calibrated. I've done recalibrations as well, and they stay like that. So I don't think that's a problem. These actually do feel good, quite snappy. I'm going to show you some precision test results as well. All right, precision tester, yeah, it's going to make a circle if you do the maximum thing, but you will see this will make the same shape as the Snakebite Gamepad Pro when we do the maximum, basically try to do within the maximum values what sort of shape it makes. And most of the Hall effect sticks are making this kind of shape. They don't make a circle because I believe the software values that are reached with the position of the stick. They like set values. So wherever you are going, the diagonals take a little bit more extra one, but you can go into the absolute maximum axis much quickly. Aiming wise, I think this performed really well for me personally. Sniping, dragging the scope, yeah, was a really good experience. Tracking enemies was a really good experience. No matter what kind of play style that I was trying to do, I did find my settings and I was able to utilize the controller really well. I did think that it was snappier and it didn't feel slower to me. And it is a little bit different than the other controllers, especially I was coming from the Thrustmaster eSwap X, so I did have to find my settings again. But I do think aiming wise, no matter what your playstyle is, you will find your suitable settings. These sticks are getting really good, and I think manufacturers are using things in place to make sure that they don't feel slow. In my opinion, yeah, these are performing really well. I do wish they had given us the ability to disable the Excel dead zones, because to some it might be an issue, judging by the comments online. Some people don't like them. To me personally, I thought quick aiming was really good, and if I wanted to track a target, I thought it worked really well as well. So when it comes to aiming, in my opinion, definitely a really good performing controller. Conclusion time, guys. I love the performance of the controller. I think the triggers work really well. No accidental actuations, resting the fingers there. The whole in-hand feel is really good. 4 back buttons, especially with the switches they've used. I think this is definitely a really, really good feeling controller. Now, I do wish there was a little bit more grip. That's one gripe I have. Also, when we come to the thumbsticks, we have those axial dead zones and those force minimum dead zones. I wish they had gone with a route where there was an advanced mode where basically everything, like we could decide if we wanted those axial dead zones and those minimum dead zones. Even when we're taking the minimum dead zones out, there are some dead zones there. So that could have made this the ultimate controller. If they had given us the option to decide that if we want the minimum dead zones completely disabled, we can do that. And if we want the axial dead zones, yeah, we can use it. And if you don't want them, even give us the option of how much of the axial dead zones they are, because I think there is a place for them. For me personally, like if you are just dragging the scope or whatever, they can come in handy. So that could potentially be a deal breaker for some people who actually don't like them. So if you are somebody who hates axial dead zones, then that potentially can be a deal breaker. Although I do think they are very minimal, but yeah, they are there. The other thing that is a bit of a concern for me is the price and the screen. To be honest, I don't really care for the screen. I wish the controller didn't have it, because there are other controllers on the market that can do profile switching, everything on the controller itself. And it's an Xbox controller. Xbox allows third parties to have their apps available. They're not like Sony where you can't have anything on the console. So you have apps and things available to do those intricate things like minimum dead zones or whatever. You can do that through the app, and then whilst you're gaming, you just want to do things on the fly. That could have been amazing if the price was a lot lower than what it is. That's my concern. And because Turtle Beach has made this one, so if they do make a budget version where they bring most of the things like the Hall effect sticks and trigger stops and stuff, but not as premium as this, I have a feeling they're not going to put 4 back buttons on it, because then they would alienate this controller. So if they do go that route, we are going to have only 2 back buttons. But I don't know, maybe the industry is heading in the direction of the screen and controllers are doing all this stuff. That's the new norm, and companies know this, and that's why they are trying to be the first to do this. But yeah, price is a scary factor. But when it comes to performance, for me personally, I think it's a really good performing controller. Could have been the ultimate controller for me if they had completely disabled the minimum dead zones and given us the option to decide if we wanted the axial dead zones or if we wanted a radial sort of dead zone. But everything else seems to be working really well. Wireless, lots of positives. So I think for a lot of people, this will definitely be a really, really good controller. Well, that's everything from me, guys. If I've left anything out, please do leave me a comment. I do my best to reply to every comment I get. And let me know if you have any issues with external dead zones. If there is a reason that you don't like them, it would be very interesting for me and others to find out as well. Also, if you have this controller, what your experience is like, definitely share that in the comments. I think when you guys share your experiences is such a valuable thing to have, and just to know that, how people are, what their experience is like, what issues, potential issues are happening. In my case, the only thing is that left stick, rubbing too much, scraping things. Other than that, I think the controller is performing really well. So I will be doing a lot of comparisons of this controller against some of my favorite ones. And yeah, so stay tuned for those videos. I think it will be very interesting for me as well to play like back to back with other controllers, what are the differences and things like that. So I will definitely be covering that in detail. And thank you so much for everybody who subscribed. Your support means a lot. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully I'll catch you in one of my other ones. Bye for now.